Hey, Sharpie,
What?
you know what's happening?
No.
We're going live
On the internet?
on the internet again for Taylor Primetime.
How
We're
many
live.
weeks in a row is this?
Yeah, 9 weeks in a row we're going live. And you know what? I think take it
What
away,
is going
Andy.
on? What time is it? What time is it? It's prime time. Prime time. What time is it? What time is it? It's prime time. Prime time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all guitar nerds are welcome. Broadcasting with definitely not enough bandwidth. It's Taylor Guitars Prime Time. If you're hip, you can say PT. If you're hip, you can see Pape. You can say PT. Yeah, it's a live show, man. Say hello to Chris Sharp, everybody. You can call him Sharpie. Today's guest, please welcome Taylor Guitars National Accounts Manager, Mr. Mike Ausman. Hey, Mike. And the host with the most, Mr. Jay Parkin. Hey, Jay. It's prime time. Prime time.
It's so good. And
So someone just wrote equal parts catchy and creepy.
it's totally creepy. But hey, welcome to Taylor Primetime. We already got a ton of people watching. This is fantastic, man.
This is cool.
It is, welcome back, everyone, to Taylor Primetime. This is, our low-budget show where we get online and talk about guitars. How nerdy is that? Andy, thanks again for the tunes, man. They get better and better every single week. Sharpie, how you doing?
Good, man. Just watching all these comments come through already about Mike's hat. This is cool.
Mike Osmond, National Accounts Manager at Taylor Guitars. It is such a pleasure to have you on Taylor Primetime. The best part about you being on... Oh, man. I forgot. I'm supposed to wear a hat. So I usually wear baseball hats for people that... Right. I'm sorry. I got to change my hat real quick. Mike's a Dodgers fan. So I wanted to make sure that I could you like my hair? I could represent him right.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. If I suddenly lose connection or go garbly, don't be alarmed. I'll be finding my order for your new hat.
All good. It's all good. No, I just had I kid. But we love baseball here. Mike played baseball in college. We connected when I first started talking or working at Taylor Guitars. And we really appreciate you being here. So Mike, National Accounts Manager, what do you actually do?
I spend a lot of time away from home talking about things that everybody dreams about. We get the pleasure of being a part of building something that's super special that some people just can't live without, and I get to travel both the U.S. and Canada, and help people get guitars into stores that customers can just, guitars is one of those things where people are always going to need because they may lose everything and they want to sing about it, or they may win everything and they want to sing about it. And I get to do a service that provides the opportunity for people to check out guitars at a high level in 2 countries. So doubly national. So it's quite a lifestyle, but here's the best way to put it. I just told my wife over dinner, I have watched the last 4 new Star Wars movies on the airplane seat back video screen. That's what I'm used to.
Yeah, you are gone all the time, traveling around. I mean, Andy as well. I mean, you guys, you're jet set, so to speak, right? And what do your airline miles look like? Are you guys doing okay?
Well, I'm sure. Go ahead, Andy. I mean, Andy goes to places that I can't even find on the map.
Well, I was going to say the same thing. The only time I see movies is on airplanes, pretty much. So, I saw the Hunger Games movies on like years later. I was like, oh, that's what they were all talking about 3 years ago.
Yeah, I guess when you get to a lifetime status with a hotel chain, you've arrived. I don't know. I mean, you don't have to worry about where you're going to stay, but I've had 961 nights at my favorite hotel chain, so quite a bit.
On the marketing team, we don't get to travel that much, and maybe it's not a bad thing. But you know what? You guys do a spectacular job. And I know during this weird time, as you can see, we're now live on YouTube via Zoom. Hey, by the way, we're sponsored by Zoom. I'm just kidding. We just can't get rid of the logo. Don't worry about it. Anyway, but we get to hang out on this low budget show that we love every Tuesday. Sharpie and I actually wake up on Tuesday, and it's kind of like, yes, we get to do prime time. Most of it's because the guests are awesome, and we're really looking forward to what Andy's going to play. So, I mean, it's just
that was incredible. By the way, I did not know what to expect. The hype for Andy was large. I'm so excited about that one.
It is lo-fi. We love the lo-finess. By the way, Jay, I just got a message that I've never seen on my screen before that says your internet connection is unstable. So if I disappear or something, just give me the reboot sign and I'll disappear and come back. But I've never seen that before. So
that's cool. It happened before. We had a VP on here, and he kind of got in a gridlock.
Head.
Quite a while. So it's been known. We've been known to fail. But let's get into tonight's subject. Tonight's subject is finding my player profile. And I thought you were great for this one, Mike. Both of you guys, Andy and Mike, are going to be so helpful here. But which guitar is best for me? That's a good subject, right?
It's one of the hardest questions ever.
It is. So I got this quote, right? That's great. A guitar is a very personal extension of a person playing it, right? You have to be emotionally and spiritually connected to your instrument. I am very brutal on my instruments, but not all the time. Eddie Van Halen said that quote. We all like Eddie Van Halen. So anyway, finding my player profile. What kind of questions do we ask when we're trying to find my player profile? Can you help me walk through this one? Mike?
I was like, okay. Well, I mean, I think people always want to know things like, how big should a guitar be? Or how much do I need to spend to get a good one? Or do I need a certain type of rose, but how come that one looks different than this one? And people, they walk into guitar showrooms and they can be overwhelmed. They go on websites, they can get lost. And I'm going to set the table right now and tell you that buying a guitar should feel like playing that old school board game, Guess Who? Where you sit there against someone else and you pick your little person and they try to guess who you are. Are you bald? Nope. You knock them down. Do you have a mustache? Nope. You knock them all down. And at the end, you should be staring at about 3 faces that you're trying to zero in on. And that's how a guitar buying should be if you do ask the right questions. And hopefully when you go to buy a guitar or you get a chance to listen to us, we'll help you define what those questions are. Some are the same for everybody and some are a little bit different. So I think that it's always when you look at somebody physically, that would be the worst thing you could do and go, well, here's a guitar for you. When you listen to how somebody talks about how they feel about guitar and then you sit and watch them play, you can probably start handing guitars and lead them with those little yellow bricks before you even ask any questions. But typically from my career and in my perspective, I always wanted to be sensitive in the beginning to how much somebody truly wants to spend, because the worst thing you ever want to feel is this incredible buildup to a new guitar and you get home and you wish you didn't spend the money that you did. The guitar almost becomes a frenemy at that point, and that is dangerous. So I'm okay with asking somebody very directly, what are you comfortable spending? Because we'd like to respect that, and there's going to be great options within all of these different pricing segments. Andy, would you kind of agree with that, or are you starting a different spot?
I agree with both. There's both sides of that too, though. I think that, we got some of the questions that came in via email today were there was a common theme among some of them, which was, why are your guitars so expensive? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they are expensive. They're no more expensive than any other American made brand guitar. It's kind of what it costs to make guitars in the United States. We want to employ people in California. We want to provide a good product. But if you think about the amount of money that you spend on a USA made guitar, if you take care of that guitar, it'll last you your whole lifetime. And it will become an heirloom for you to pass down your children, your grandchildren, give it away, whatever. And there are very few things that we can buy today that you can do that with. So that's my answer. Like, it's okay to spend money on guitars. And like I said, it's also a good investment. USA made guitars their value will come back if you ever do need to sell it at some point.
Yeah, I guess what's more sustainable than something that you can keep and cherish and use for your lifetime, and then it continues beyond you. I mean, if somebody's just straight up going to do the math, if you were going to own a great guitar for 50 years, what's it worth to you to own that guitar a year?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it can be that black and white, and all of a sudden that sticker shock starts to kind of amortize out or blend out over a length of time. And it's like, yeah, I'd pay $200, $100 a year to have this guitar. It's
and
worth more than that.
How many laptops are you going to go through, and how many sets of tires are you need to buy for your car, and how many cars are you going to need to buy, and all that stuff. So I think of it that way, as an investment that you're going to have forever, and it's beans over a day each, if you divide it up by the years that you can enjoy playing it. So
yeah, that's awesome. I have a really funny kind of, I'll give you the real Cliff Note story, but I used to work at a Sam Ash music store in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, and I had a customer who came in all the time, and he tells me this really great story about when he was a kid. The only guitar he wanted was this hollow body Gretsch, and he saved up all of his paper route money and his yard mowing money, and he went to the store when he was a kid and he could buy this guitar, and the guy, oh, by the way, it was left-handed, so he gets there, right? He was left-handed, like Sharpie. And so he gets there, and the guy's like, yeah, we don't have one in left-handed, and I don't sell Gretsch anymore, but I can get you a Gibson ES335. So he saves up all his money, orders it. It took months to get it. And when he finally went to pick it up, he loved it, this, that, and the other. Years later, the Gibson bus came around and they were doing appraisals on guitars, and he took it to get appraised. And they opened it up, and it was like the Holy Grail light kind of, right? Started shining and stuff. And they said to him, you want to know about the original owner of this guitar? And he said, yeah, I do. And so they said, they printed it out, told him everything. He's like, yeah, showed him his ID and said, yeah, it's mine. And they kind of sat down, and it was like appraised at like north of, way north, like 300 grand or something like that. Cause it was the first left-handed ES335, and it was a mistake. It was a right-handed neck that they flipped over, and there were fret marks on both sides.
What?
So it was like the guitar. And anyway, so I said to him, fast forward, what would you do with that if you sold it? Would you take, your wife out to dinner and stuff? He said, no, I'd buy the Gretsch that I always wanted. Good, but I mean, that's a good point. When you're buying an instrument, think a little bit more than, I'm playing this tomorrow, and then I'm going on tour with it. There's so much to think about. So back to the questions and building that player profile. You guys we do another in-store event called a Find Your Fit event. Walk us through that process. When you're having a one-on-one with me, Mike, and Andy, walk us through what would you do? I mean, if you want to role play, let's do it. I don't care. What would you do? How does that start? And try and sell me a guitar. It'd be interesting.
Okay, so it's if people don't know that the in-store events are either a road show, which has more of a performance, and the Find Your Fit is kind of the collection of customers that are ready to go right after a road show, where they've seen a little bit, they've heard a little bit, the juices are flowing. The wife is kind of like, okay, we're good here. I see you're enjoying this. Let's go. Right? That's a huge barrier for a lot of players. It's okay. And and somebody's going to walk in and usually what a customer does in the very beginning is they say, here's the guitars that I have. They want to tell you what they have. And that's actually really good information for us, because I'm going to tell you right now, everybody that has more than 5 guitars, they're probably all the same shape. They're probably mostly the same material. And it's incredible how people almost can be nervous to step out of their comfort zone for a new shape or a new tone wood or a new feature set. So a lot of times what I would do is say, let me see the guitar picks that you like to play with. And a lot of times they're going to put down a really cheesy, inexpensive, flexible, pick that just, it might as well be a noodle. It just flops. And, I love a real thin pick because I like to, do X, Y, and Z. So I get a sense of that. And then the first question I'm going to ask you after that is, do you sing? Because people who sing usually need more of something on the guitar and they need a lot less of something else. So unless they go, yes, it's me and my guitar, we have a lot of options. If they say, I'm looking, Mike, for something that's going to accompany my next record of me and my acoustic guitar playing, well, that kind of limits all those Guess Who faces right down to Rosewood pretty quickly. So if I know what kind of pick you play, I watch you strum and get a sense of how aggressive you want to be with an instrument. So, people lose consciousness when they get their guitar home and they get it on their lap, because they all just kind of strum, right? They forget about what's happening. They forget about how they're torquing it. They forget about how hard they're strumming it. And that's good for me to see in real time, because I get a sense of the bigger the body, maybe you need a little bit more lung capacity. You're a heavier player, you need more projection and a little bit more headroom. Or you're that player that just hugs and snuggles with your guitar and loves that kind of light touch response. Those are going to give us instant avenue towards where we should be going. And that's always a great conversation starter, but obviously I'm going to be able to earn your trust to say, hey, Jay, would you mind if I showed you something that's a little bit different than everything you've told me you've already had, and is going to respond completely different to everything that you do with the guitar that I see? Is that okay? And that's going to open our door right there.
That's interesting. So you're saying, like, playing style is a big one. So right now, maybe I'm going to come back with and say, yes, I sing and I play fingerstyle but a little bit more chicken picking, like a little bit more heavy handed fingerstyle. Where do I go from there?
Okay. So when it's just you and your guitar, figure that vocally you're going to sit right in the middle of a mix. So the human voice kind of has this natural mid-range bell curve to it. So we kind of stand out in a sonic scape, if you will, naturally. And Rosewood has this really large footprint. So it's got this really kind of low end kick to it, and you get that top end shimmer. So it's going to kind of cover you on both ends vocally. And then if you're going to want to really use fingers and dig in and have a snappy kind of aggressive attack to it, it could go either way, really. If you're using acrylic nails, if you have natural nails, if you have thumb picks. But for somebody who needs a little bit more elasticity in their tone, even Sitka will work. Sitka spruce will still work for that. A lot of people would think, well, let's use cedar. It's soft. It's on nylon guitars. Fingerstyle players love it. But remember, tops are like speakers, and the harder you hit them, the more prone they will be to reach their limitation. So if I'm watching you grab those strings, I'm going to need you to play with something that's a little stiffer on top than something that might be a little softer. So you're looking at a tighter body style with Rosewood that might have spruce on it, or something in between a Sitka spruce and a cedar.
Interesting. Okay. Now that I know that, I want to tell you that let's see. I play live gigs. Little bit bigger than coffee shop gigs, but I play live gigs regular, and also on Sundays I'm in a worship group. Where do I go from there?
Okay, I don't really think, Jay, that your guitar choice has changed. And if this was the first time we met, I would say just let's do two things, one in order of the other. Let's worry about acoustic tone first, right? Let's find the mate. Don't buy the options, because I'm telling you, most acoustic buyers, they buy guitars with these. They go, that guitar is beautiful. It's got to be the most perfect sounding guitar. It's got to be the best sounding guitar. Oh, look at the price tag. Oh, it's got to be great. All right, fail. Let's find the guitar that speaks to your style, your handling, your environment. And then, Taylor has got an incredible time and effort investment into our electronics package, right? So the expression system has such a natural appearance sonically. So all I would tell the customers, hey, when you find the guitar that's right for you, the electronics package that it can be offered with it is just going to take the sound you have in the showroom or in your bedroom or in your studio and just bring it up. Because there's nothing worse in the world than buying a great guitar and having one guitar that sounds like it does in the living room and the other guitar it does when you go on stage. And now you've got a conflict of interest, and nothing would be more unfortunate than you doing your gig or at church and you're like, I wish it sounded like it did in the bedroom, but dang, this just doesn't sound like the guitar I bought. Why is that? We don't want that. And Taylor's fortunate enough to be able to blend the opportunity to find these different sonic choices and then take the volume up and put it anywhere you want. You could go to play, Dodger Stadium if you wanted to, or you could, play in your garage, and it all works.
I would ask you, what kind of guitar sounds do you like? Who do you listen to?
Oh, that's a good one. Well,
Like if you're playing, if part of your thing is you're playing like gigs on a worship gig on Sundays, like who's the guy that you really dig, like that you listen to, and what kind of sound does that person have? And that's just part of your profile, because you've said you do other gigs as well. But that would be another question I think that would come up.
that's good, and that's good. So would you also say genre or music style helps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think right now we started this discussion with sounding like somebody who's already got a bunch of guitars.
Yeah, good point.
For a new one, and there would be a different set of questions that Mike would ask you if you were a beginner and you walked into, just like if when you were at Sam Ash and somebody came in and they say, "Man, I'm so nervous, I don't know what I'm doing here." So but I really want to play guitar though.
I got a great question in here from Kevin Campbell. I've always heard that you should buy the best guitar you can afford. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes.
100%. 100. I mean, why? If you can afford it, everything that you buy in this world is 90% emotional and then 10% rational. So when you walk into a guitar showroom or you fall in love with an instrument, and then you go, oh, rats, how am I going to pay for this? It happens to everybody.
Did we tell you about financing?
Do you finance?
Yeah, but sorry, but with that, in the way that I read that when that came through, is the best guitar you could afford is not always the most expensive guitar you can afford, right? So the best guitar for me might be a 324, where yours might be a 612 12 fret, and it's not the highest up in the line, but it's the best guitar for your needs. So that question could go both ways, right?
The word best in acoustic guitar buying is dangerous, because the coat that might be best for the guy who lives in Michigan is certainly not going to be the coat I would need if I lived in San Diego in the same winter months. It's all relative. So people think best, they think expensive. And I think you should replace the word best with most appropriate. Tell me about what you're going to do with this thing. Why would I need to put 40-inch tires on my Honda Civic if I wasn't going to go take it off-roading? I wouldn't need to do that. But those are the best tires.
Yeah. So let's wipe the slate clean. I don't have any guitars. I'm walking in and I see the sign talking about player profile. I have zero clue what player profile even means. What do I do then? I have no idea. I don't know anything about acoustic guitars.
It's tough, because that customer has a mountain they have to climb in their own heart first. And that is, I'm not good enough to own a nice guitar. And that is something people have to get past. Like, well, I'm not good enough to own a really great guitar. Well, that's why a lot of people try to start at $200. And then you think by the time they become in their mind good enough, they've bought 3 guitars since, and now they're at the place that they would have started at in the beginning. you know, on the flip side, people who sit down and play a guitar, that's what we'll all hopefully agree on as entry level compared to something that's mid-level, they're going to feel the craftsmanship. They're going to feel the sonic experience that a nice guitar brings. They're going to fall in love with the detailing that goes into it. And you know, you can buy a black pickup truck anywhere in America at every car lot, but you've got to walk into a guitar showroom and make a connection with something, because that's half the battle. I mean, how many things get in this personal space of ours? Our pillow, our pet, our children, our spouse, and maybe our guitar. So it's worth, you know, being a little risky up front to procure a really long relationship with the guitar. So that's the first thing people have to get past. And then after that, trust in the salesperson, because everybody needs somebody to tell them not necessarily what to do, but how to think about taking that next step, how to be open to ideas. Because if you don't know anything, this is what this person does for a living. They're here to guide you, and they usually are going to start you right in the middle, something that does a little bit of everything, and that's an okay place to start.
Yeah, we're having a couple of sidebar conversations over in the feed that are really good. And Craig, who's been here watching the show a couple of times, he brought up a good point. Can you address parent and child looking for their first acoustic?
Yeah, no problem. It's a great one. And in my, you know, my retail career, you know, it was one of those things that could either be really rewarding to be a part of, or it could be very dangerous, because you could see the angst between parent and child. I'm a parent. My kids are 6 and 8. I leave a couple of guitars around the house, so I offer them the opportunity to be able to walk up to them without risk. But for those who are going into a scenario like, hey, Dad, I really want to, or Mom, I really want to play a guitar. Well, you don't play guitar. Yeah, I don't. You know, we'll get you something, but we're going to figure out if you like it, and then we'll go from there. I've been in so many experiences when the right guitar crosses a child's lap, they give you a look like they just got a puppy. And that look is the moment when you think, okay, the connection has been made. And it's not usually the most expensive, because the most expensive guitars for young folks, they get afraid of, right? And we can recognize that right away. But I am also of the mind that buy a guitar for a child or a young adult that's as big as they can handle. You know, if I have a 14-year-old son or daughter, I'm not going to, or a 9-year-old son or daughter, I'm not going to put in a half-size guitar thinking that I'm doing them a service. I want them to try and manage a full-size guitar, because they'll grow with it and they'll grow into it, and it will become normal. And that's always something that I would recommend right away. Do you need to spend $1 million to get a real guitar for a first timer? No. But there's great guitar ideas out there that are affordable, and the child just wants to play. And I think that is the most important. Like, listen to that interest and follow that excitement.
That's great. That's really good. I'm a parent as well, and I'm looking for a guitar for my kid. So I'm going to lean into you when it comes to, you know, finding the right guitar.
I remember one question or one thing that always used to happen in that exact scenario is that the other thing I think that's important for a parent not to do is to squash the enthusiasm that got them in the store in the first place. Because if the kid comes in and they're like, man, I want to rock, I want to play electric guitar, and the mom's like, he wants an electric guitar, but I don't want an amplifier in my house. I want to play. I just maybe like some kumbaya, some you know, some nice soft music, you know. So the kid is totally psyched to do something, and you're because of what you think is right, you know, or that's a scary thing that happens all the time, a lot.
Yeah. Totally true. Parents are afraid. Maybe they never participated in guitar in the beginning, or you know what? Sometimes can also derail that opening thing is the guitar instructor. My child's teacher says this is what they need, and that can always be a slippery slope. I don't think I want to go deeper on that, but yeah, that I've heard that countless times. And now you're negotiating between the parent and the teacher, and the child is just like, all I want to do is play. You know, all I want to do is play.
Yeah, that's how I wanted to play. I wanted to play guitar. Actually, I wanted to play bass, and my mom's like, "Yeah, You gotta learn how to play this hand-me-down clarinet first.
Exactly.
Can you bring it on next week and play it for
I
us?
don't have it anymore, but
Never.
then I went from like I was like, what? What? No, I want to do this anyway. But then it was again years later. I want to play bass, and my mom was actually her reasoning was she's a pianist and she was in the church choir and she's musical, and so she came through and she said, you know what, I think it might be smart for you to learn 6 strings before you learn 4 strings. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'm still a terrible guitar player, but I can play bass, so it's fine. I eventually went back. It's okay, but it's really interesting, because I've had those experiences with parents coming in and buying an instrument for their kid, and they look at those dollar signs. I used the 110E was a good guitar, 114. 114 CE. Those guitars at Sam Ash were always a really good spot for me to start for a kid who was a little bit, it was kind of like, I was there well over 10 years ago, so GS Mini wasn't available, and I just thought it was a good idea to get a full scale or a full size guitar. Yeah. So I'm glad I'm good at that one. Sharpie, do you
would you, sorry to interrupt on that, but would you say that that's a good start for a kid these days with their first guitar, or bringing in, now that we do have the GS Mini, now that we do have the Academy series that might be a little more comfortable to play, is that a better way to go? Or do you want to go, hey, full size, this is what you got, you're going to grow into this thing? Because when you think about a smaller stature and a big dreadnought, that can be a little rough sometimes. And now we do have this alternative, and in every generation, guitars are getting better and better and easier to play. If you're starting, what are you looking for? One thing that Gabe had said in here, and he had a question for you, Mike, was what are the best practices for trying guitars? And do you have tips to keep in mind when you're looking for that?
I mean, you could keep us on here for 6 days with all those questions.
Yeah. Right? You were like 15.
Yeah. So let's work backwards. Advice to you as a potential guitar buyer: don't ever try more than 3 guitars at a time, ever, because people this day and age have too much opportunity to do the research before they go in. They think they know what they're looking for. Not every retailer is all the same, and now you're forced to make a decision on the spot. So you start following things that might be in the same price point or might look the same. And now you've tried 7 guitars and you don't know where you started and you can't remember what you read online. And you're like, well, I'm going to try to go home and just figure it out again. And you're no closer, actually further away in the process. To go back to your original question, Sharpie, Taylor has done an incredible job of building products to fit a lot of specific needs for different players at different price points. That sounds like a sales pitch. But the reality is, when we talk about some of our very specific series, they have attributes that may not always work for prospective beginners. Like a GS Mini just had its 10th anniversary, and it is probably a brand within a brand. It is globally recognized, and it rules. And anybody would probably agree with that. But does everybody know that a GS Mini has 13 gauge medium strings on it? Those are going to feel very, very stiff to fingers with no calluses. A lot of people also look for obvious value. If I'm looking at guitars, if the salesman's like, here you go, Mike, here's all the guitars that we have in this price point, and I see something like an Academy, I'm going to be drawn to the armrest and go, what is that? Tell me about that. Ice is broken. Now we're interested. I would always agree that it might be helpful that the customer know too that natural resonating material can sound a little bit more present than non-natural materials. So there's companies that make things that may not be all wood or partially wood. And these are things to consider. And I always used to joke, if your kid decides to quit, if you decide to give it up, and go to tuba, you'll have a heck of a lot more success selling, a guitar that has real wood on it than you would something that's plastic. Yep. So those are just some basic things.
That what Mike said earlier, he said it twice now about trying 3 guitars, and that's good advice, because if you're a beginner and you go to a store and you look at a wall of 20 guitars, the first thing you're going to go to is, wow, that one is red, or you're going to be bright, shiny objects are going to kind of jump out at you, right? But if you are a beginner, and especially if you're a younger person, or maybe, you know, you're not fully grown yet, if you lined up an Academy, a series guitar, and a GS Mini, and a 110 CE, and 3 guitar stands sitting right in front of you, and you just go back and forth between each one of them, that's a really good demonstration. That's a good experience for somebody to go through, because we've talked about this before too. And I've said it on the show already, is that I think it's really important as a beginner to pay attention to the vibe that you get from an instrument. You know, Mike sort of touched on it by saying, he said something about like getting a puppy, like he was reading the emotional reaction from the kid. But the same thing happens when you do that with the guitars. You might say, I don't know why this one is the smallest one, but I like it the most. And if that jumps out at you, pay attention to it.
That's a great point. Great point.
Really important.
Let's look at baseball, right? If Sharpie's my customer, I'm going to give Sharpie 2 fastballs that he's looking for, and then I'm going to ask him if I can throw him a curveball. Because most people come in like a racehorse, right? And they've got their blinders on and they're going, I'm looking for Rosewood, I'm looking for a Dreadnought, I'm looking for Rosewood, I'm looking for Dreadnought. Oh my God, he's bringing me something that doesn't look like a Dreadnought, and it's maple. So you get a customer after a little bit of qualification under their belt and go, here's 2 guitars I think you're probably going to like that are kind of in the vein of what you're looking for, but is it okay if I also bring you something that's a little bit different? And all you need to do is respond. And what happens is they unlock a different room in the back of their brain that goes, wow, this is cool. I don't know why I'm digging this, but I mean, how many times have we heard, Andy, thank you for showing me this one?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, from sales, from being around instruments for a very long time, being around guitars, and now at Taylor, I work with, you know, I kind of manage all of our influencers and studio influencers, and I'll get producers and engineers calling me all the time asking me for, I need a thing, right? And often you'll see me, you know, send a request and say, send this, but also send this, because that's what they want. They just don't know it. And then they get it and they're like, oh, this is incredible. How'd you know I wanted this? It's really interesting. I mean, it is. It's super fun, and it's interesting to see people, you know, that I didn't think I was going to like this, and now all of a sudden I do. Good question here. Do you have any best practices for trying instruments in a store? So you said try 3, but is there anything, you know, that you can recommend?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think you know, what's the most demoed song in any acoustic room? Is it Blackbird? Is it Stairway still? Is it Metallica? I think that something will always happen. Whatever guitar you buy is going to be the greatest guitar you've ever bought. The next one and the next one. And it's always going to sound better at home. And it's always going to be more personal when you get it in your space. Trying guitars out, Taylor might actually behoove you to try something different, where we would say, come and sit with me, play these guitars that I kind of offered you, and then start shuffling different pick choices around and watch how the guitars take different personalities. You can play whatever you want, because most guitar customers, they want to show the salesperson, I know my way around a guitar, and they do their best licks, the best, you know, 3 or 4 licks that they have, and that's how they demo. And if you know anything about Andy Powers, if you listen to Andy Powers, who's our, you know, master guitar designer, how he speaks about guitars, sometimes just warming the instrument up and listening to how it handles single notes and feeling the neck. You know, we can tell you that these 3 guitars that we're showing you, all the necks are the same on the math side, but I can never take away the power of your perception on how a guitar feels. So becoming familiar with the curves and the weight and the string tension, and just forgetting about everything else for a moment, is a great way to actually try guitars. But, you know, A, B, C, the same piece, the same pick, the same position, because as soon as you're like, this one's kind of done, take it away. Because I would always want to give the advice that you would never want to buy a guitar you feel like you're going to fight. It's like trying to, you know, fall in love with somebody and think you're going to change them. That's just not going to happen, right? People are who they are. Guitars, they do grow and change over time, but they have a very specific kind of aura, and when you connect with it, you'll just know.
Yeah.
I think it's important to play the same thing on the guitars you're demoing. Same song, same licks, same, whether it's single note like Mike was saying, or if it's you're playing chords, play in different styles. You know, you might, if you're a beginner, you might not know a whole lot, but whatever you do know, play the exact same thing, and don't get swayed by your friend who brings you there, who plays completely different than you, right? Or you know, and we've all seen that being in retail, you know, where the friend comes in, right, to help.
Yeah.
And actually what ends up happening is the friend is picking out the guitar they want. Right. So I think that's a super important thing. The other thing I would say that I see happening a lot too is, don't spend, if you've got 20 minutes in a store to play a guitar, don't spend 20 minutes of it plugged into an amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really. I mean, it's really important to listen to the pickup. And last week, of course, we talked about that was their subject, was talking about how to get the best sound out of an amp. That's part of it. The reality is you're going to play it unplugged, sitting on your couch 95% of the time you have it. So be happy with that before you go anywhere else.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love the comment about the friend, because you do get that. You get my friend who's going to come in here and tell you what you have to have because
friend
want.
Like, watch me play this guitar. Yeah.
Exactly.
And oftentimes the friend wants to come over to your house and play that one. They just don't know
That's
about
right.
it. Let's be real here for a moment.
Unless it's you, Chris, because you're lefty and you can't play my guitar. So
Yeah,
safe.
you have no reason to touch my stuff. But hey, we've got plenty of good questions coming in here. Some really good email ones that came through too that we definitely want to address. But Mike, I guess this is both to you and Andy, because Andy, you also used to own a guitar store yourself. There's so much information on the internet. I'm guilty of it right now. I'm looking at different cameras I'm into, and I call Jay because I'm like, what do you think about this? So people are looking for their friends' advice and going to every website and watching YouTubes and everything like that. Now, when we're saying don't go in and just research everything, because there is a lot of confusion that you can find on the internet, what are maybe a few things that you definitely want to know before you go in and you're purchasing guitars, and especially now in these days when a lot of it's online, that you're doing your shopping and maybe you're not going to play that before it gets shipped to you? What are some definite know these things that you want before you buy?
That's a great question. I'll try to be brief with it. Part of my world with my accounts is the e-com part of it. You know, the retailers that sell online. I think one of the things that this day and age provides the best for anybody buying anything is a review. You know, you'll look at the fact that when things sell online, 60% of the people who made a decision, it went from a review that's within the last 6 months. We trust our peers when we can't touch. We trust our guitar playing friends when we can't see. The race for a great photography moment with a guitar has probably been won by some of our key partners out there on social media. So the next step is to understanding video. What does a guitar look like when it comes out of a box if I can't touch it? What does a guitar sound like if I can watch it on video with somebody who plays not beyond my means, but somebody who can connect and let the guitar just kind of speak for itself. You're looking for the power of choice. Can I choose which guitar I want? Can I talk with somebody in real time on phone, email, or chat about the guitar that I'm dreaming about? If I'm going into a showroom, take the digital knowledge with a grain of salt and just feel some guitars. It's one of the most tactile things. It's one of the most romantic things you can buy, but you got to touch it. So if you have that opportunity, do that. And it kind of clears up some of the fog. I don't know. What do you think, Andy?
I agree with that. And I think that, I might be showing ignorance into my camera skills, but to me, a camera is not as personal as a guitar. Maybe I'm wrong. And I don't know because I don't know. But there are very few things like a guitar. One of the cool things about it is that you're actually touching the thing that's making the sound. There's nothing in between you and the output, right? Like even with a piano, you've got a key that hits a couple of hammers, that hits a string, right? But a guitar, man, is like somebody said hugging earlier, and that's part of it. So yeah, that experience is super important to me. I think that before you go in for that experience, a little bit of reading will help you. And you should check out different body sizes, and you should check out different tone woods, and see if what you read matches to your ear, because it might not. You might go in thinking that, wow, everything I read points me to rosewood, but man, I love the way this maple guitar sounds.
Yep, and that's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, it's awesome. This I didn't know how this subject was gonna go, and I'm getting blasted with questions on my phone and online and through email and different chat functions that we have. So it's really good. This is an awesome topic. Thank you guys for hanging out with us.
Are they clarinet questions?
I was gonna say,
we got more questions. Let's go.
Never had one lesson.
No, clarinet questions. Hey, my mom might be joining watching. Mom, thanks for letting me play the clarinet.
Yeah. But see, the clarinet got you your own show on the internet, Jay.
I know. I know. This is me publicly thanking my mom.
Who would have known?
Well, I mean, she's so great. And Mom, thank you for making me play the clarinet. Which then turned me into a wicked sax player. True. But finally, I got my, cream-colored Squire Strat. So sweet.
Where is it now?
Questions.
eBay.
Sold it.
There's a good question that came in from our buddy Gabe. Mike, we hear a lot about body sizes in relation to styles of playing. What about strumming on a GC or finger style on a GP? Do you have to stick to those recommendations?
The answer is no, and I say that genuinely. Don't be boxed in necessarily by website language or salesman's points of view. People drive, again, pickup trucks 2 miles to work or 30 miles to work, and they have to spend a lot of time in the car, where somebody might think it's designed to haul lumber and furniture and whatever else. So don't be confined by necessarily just the body shape, because if you make that match, you should never ignore that. When we try to outline a player profile, we're trying to give you a very general guideline to say that typically players who do this will find the results they're looking for using that, right? Can I eat macaroni with a spoon? I can. Fork works great too, right? So don't get lost in that. But Gabe, I love you, and I know you know what you're talking about. So it's okay to be adventurous, and in the end, you're going to end up getting saddled with hopefully the right guitar.
Gabe also is a Cleveland Indians fan, so we'll let him ride with that one.
I like the Indians. I mean, I heard they got uniforms and everything. It's really great.
Yeah, but you know what? Paul Tobias is also on here. He did have a wonderful question. It was, Mike, what is your favorite guitar store in suburban Chicago?
Well, let's see. There's so many to choose from. I'd have to really. There's a great guitar store in suburban Chicago where you park in the back. There's really no sign. I think it has a ballet sign over the back. I can't remember what the name of it is, but you can go in the back and they have a bar in there. The guy that owns its dad still works there. I think his wife actually is the CFO, but it's a great, cozy little spot. It's been there 40 years and it's near and dear to my heart. So we love you, Paul. Go Dodgers.
That's great. There's another one. This is not really necessarily a question about player profile, but this is a good one. It's about purchasing. So I want to ask it. Micah asked, what if your guitar store doesn't carry the model you're wanting and you can't touch it?
Well, I would ask Micah, do you still want to, do business with them? And if the answer is yes, then I would tell you that, Taylor makes guitars that are so true, and the confidence that you can have in ordering something and getting what you hoped for is about 99.5% solid. I mean, I don't know of a lot of other guitar companies that have experienced so many years of consistency compared to where Taylor's at. So if that's something that you can bite down on and believe in, then I would tell you that you can feel confident. Also, though, every store has its own return policy. It has its own rules and regulations. So, definitely understand what you're getting yourself into. But if they're giving you a safety net, feel good about what we can build you for sure.
That's awesome. Sharpie, more questions.
There's some questions coming through, and there's one that's almost exactly the same that we have in here is in email as well. So we'll just hit that. And it's a question that we do get sometimes. I mean, I've done shows in stores and everything, and I've heard it before as well. But what Taylor sounds most similar to a Martin D28? They have a GS Mini and they love the shape and style, but they're looking for that sound. Now, we all have our answers to these things. Me personally, if I was presented that question, I said, if you're looking for that sound of a Martin D28, you already found your guitar, right? But if you're looking for a nuance of that in the Taylor line, that would be similar. Like what would you say to that person if they came in asking that question to you?
Wow. That's tough because that's a very loaded question, even if it's not intentional. Even Bob Taylor would tell you if he fell in love with the Martin D28, please, it's a great guitar. I mean, you got to give a lot of respect to Martin guitars. They've been, building guitars longer than there's been electricity. They do it very well. With Taylor, we have a completely different movement in our guitars. We have an internal architecture that moves a little bit differently, so we don't always have that massive whoosh of air that people love about a Martin, and I think that's respectable. I mean, even Bob Ross, the painter with the big fluffy hair, had multiple colors on the palette, right, that he painted the happy trees with. So if we had to just go match to match and try to find something specific, it would probably be a 700 series Grand Pacific. A little bit different though, because it has a torrefied spruce top, so it's going to be a little bit more elastic and move similar amount of air. I mean, Andy, maybe you can come up with something different, but tone woods comparatively, and then almost close enough in body shape, that would be my best off the cuff. What do you think?
I agree with you. I agree with both of you, and I wish I could see some Bob Ross right now, because I used to love going when we used to be able to hang out. There was a place I used to go to near my house on Sunday nights, and me and Sean, the bartender, would watch old reruns of Bob Ross. So badass.
Rest in peace.
I would say to that person, if you like the sound of D28, that's what you should buy. And a D28 is a dreadnought guitar, and it's made out of rosewood and Sitka spruce. So we have guitars that are in the dreadnought category. Is it going to sound like a D28? Sometimes. Some things will. Overall, probably not. So if you like the sound of D28 and you're interested in Taylor and you like the way it feels, I would check out a Builder's Edition 717E. 717. It's because it's a dreadnought. It's in the dreadnought category, but it's our dreadnought. It's not Martin's dreadnought.
Yep.
717.
Someone just said Bob Ross is in Hulu, so you can
Really?
check it out, Andy.
That's worth the subscription right there.
Maybe Taylor Primetime will be in Hulu someday.
We'll get there. You know what, guys? Moving on to another question. I'm kind of rapid firing to you right now because we definitely spend a lot of time chatting amongst ourselves. But let's talk about comparing a couple more guitars, right? So Tim had asked, what is the difference between a 414 CE Rosewood and an 814 other than price? So that can cause some confusion when you're looking at rosewood spruce. Can you explain that a little bit with somebody that might be shopping?
Yeah, no problem. I'll try to give a quick answer, and I think that customers at first pass down a row of guitars are going to see shiny things like Andy had mentioned. When you're looking at 400s and 800s, the body shape is the same, and the first pass on materials is the same, but you've got to respect the idea that we have a couple of folks at our factory who are physically touching and flexing and grading and tasting and chewing on sort of all the various woods that are going to go within their respective series. And they've all kind of been trained down the line from Bob Taylor on what attributes they're looking for. So in theory, I would tell you, Tim, you're going to get a much higher caliber of cut and quality in an 800 series piece of rosewood compared to maybe a 400 series. But then you start digging deeper and you start looking at the details, the binding and the inlay work and the rosettes and the hardware that goes on it And all of a sudden you start to realize that somebody spent a lot more time in some of the places that people just overlook and recognize only a price tag and go, I don't get it. And for folks who want things that have no plastic or want these ultra intricate detailing and craftsmanship and materials that are unusual, that's where you're going to really experience something that might be a little bit more. 800s have a lot of life in them, and they can be a little bit more lively sonically than a 400 series can be as well.
My dogs liked that question or that answer. They liked the question and the answer. So here, we got
the
more.
Hostler guys are here.
Oh man.
Uh-oh.
Sharpie, do you got any more questions before we dive in? We've had a ton of great questions, guys, and we're gonna work on continuing to answer questions throughout the week in the comments, so on and so forth. But do you have any more questions, Sharpie?
Yeah, there's a couple more. I know we're getting close to the end of our time, but this one is actually really cool from Jamie. My soon-to-be 14-year-old son has been taking lessons for 5+ years. In my opinion, he's really good, plays an acoustic and electric. He currently plays a baby Taylor, but now it's time for an investment in his talent. What's the best for my lefty guitarist?
Oh,
Oh man, mic drop. Jamie, do yourself a favor and go shopping, and if you can, put your 14-year-old in an environment where they can start to gravitate. Right, you'll start to watch how they move and lust certain guitar ideas. You can always get to the left-handed version from there, but a baby Taylor into all the next levels above that we have to offer, or any guitar company for that matter, that's something they've earned, right? 5 years plus of practicing and playing and working hard and respecting their instrument. It's time to reward that. There's lots of ways to get into guitars, that maybe have sticker shock, but the reward is to go shopping, let him or her gravitate, and then just explore how you can pull it off, because that's an accomplishment. And that's, I think, 90% of guitar players stop playing within the first year. They get beat. The guitar beats them.
And he's at 5+ years at the age of 14. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And keeping in mind with that, on that last part when I said lefty, it's time for my weekly reminder that any Taylor guitar that you want to get, if you're a left-handed player, you can, from your authorized dealer at no extra charge. If they don't have it, they can order it for you, except for Builder's Edition models outside of the Grand Pacific. But I keep bugging Andy Powers about that. One day, I hope. But
I'm gonna stump the host then, because you guys need to be stumped. Also, a left-handed T3 with the Bigsby.
But that's not us. That's the Bigsby part.
That's Bigsby.
no.
That's what I'm gonna say.
Andy's reply would be, "Come on, Chris. There's no such thing as a left-handed clarinet."
Left-handed piano.
Yeah. All right, Sharpie. I think that you got another question before we go to Sharpie's question?
No, I'm good. I think we had a great time, and Mike, thanks so much for joining us. This was a blast. Went by so fast. So we hope you join us again, and we can pick up on this, because the questions keep coming through. We had a great time with you tonight.
It's a good.
I appreciate it.
It's a really good subject. I second that. Wonderful to have you here. But this now is the segment of the show we call Sharpie's Question. Take it away, Andy.
Hey, Sharpie.
Buddy.
Before you ask the question, I've got a question for you. Your doggy is a sweetheart. Is your dog left-handed too? That's the question before Sharpie's Question.
That is awesome. My sidekick Wade, I'm gonna pretend he is left-handed. I don't know. He gives me 5 with both paws, so I'm gonna pretend he's lefty. But I have a question for you, Mike. It's 2021. Fast forward, music is back. We get to go to concerts. Bands are playing. We're all out enjoying it. you get to hop on stage and play a song with any artist or band through. Who are you playing with?
You too.
Yes.
Oh,
I win.
oh my gosh! Before we hopped on the Zoom, Jay and I were doing a video conference, and he called that. He goes, "It's you too. I guarantee it." So
I was there.
Without a doubt. Yeah, done. I mean, it's not. I mean, and if it's not that, it's Tool. Take that.
that was my guess. All right, we got you. We know you. All right, that's cool.
So good. So we do a couple of other segments. We don't have a song. Well, we do one more segment. We don't have a song for it. It's a Stump the Guest question. And I have two questions for Stump the Guest. The first one is guitar related, and it's great. Mike, what's the most awesome tone wood, and why is it mahogany?
Well, mahogany is the banana of tone woods, right? It plays great with everybody.
There you go. And then
Very digestible.
that's so good. And then the next one is, you know this has nothing to do with guitars, but what are the 8 ways a batter can reach first base?
Oh man,
Like,
is it 8? I thought it was 5.
Well, there's 5 without a hit. So what are the?
Hold on, let me just run it because you're probably going to stump me, even though I should know. So it's hit by pitch, intentional walk, drop third strike, reach first base, pinch runner. Is it a by pitch, drop third strike, pinch runner, intentional walk, catcher's interference?
Yeah.
Catcher's interference. Those are the 5 that I know. I can't think of 8. I've never known 8. What am I missing?
Total. So hit, right? So not so it's hit, walk, unintentional and intentional, hit by pitch, fielder's choice, reached on error, dropped third strike, catcher's interference, fielder's interference.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those all make sense.
Anyway, so we always like to turn Taylor Primetime into a baseball podcast. But Mike, again, we can't thank you enough. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Taylor Primetime. We love hanging out with you. We have a special announcement. Those of you who watched the very first episode of Taylor Primetime know what this announcement might be. Next week at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, join us for the live rapid fire Ask Bob session. Cool. Right here next Tuesday, same time. Bob Taylor is going to be back on the show, and we are doing rapid fire Ask Bob. Bring your questions, have them ready, send them to us, write them down, invite your friends. It's going to be awesome. Thank you, guys. We love that you are supporting our low budget entertainment, infotainment, guitar nerdtainment. We appreciate it so much. Thank you, Mike. Enjoy your time off. We love your hat. Thank you for wearing a Stetson. My dogs wanted to thank you as well. And Sharpie, as always, great to see you and hang out with you. And again, Andy, let's sign off. Take it away, Andy.
What was it? What was it? It was prime time. It was prime time. What the heck was it? What was that? It was prime time. Prime time. Thanks to Michael Ausman for coming on the show. From talking from Arizona and sharing what he knows about player profile and baseball, Tuesdays, prime time.
Awesome.
See you next week, everybody.
Good one.